Before we get started, I want to thank somebody for their support. In my mind, there is one choice for roofing around here, and I'd go with your best choice. That's because Daily Detroit is brought to you in part by your Metro Detroit Best Choice Roofing. Whether it's time to replace your roof, repair it, inspect it, or get your gutters cleaned, Best Choice Roofing provides top-notch roofing services tailored to meet the unique needs of Detroit homes and businesses. They serve the entire region and inside the city of Detroit, too. And let me tell you, as a city resident, it can be hard sometimes to find contractors. Best Choice Roofing will be there for you. Find out more at bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit. That's bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit. Or call 313-474-7031. That's 313-474-7031. Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. I am Jer Staes, coming to you from the home studio in the North End. Long time since then. Our studio in Techtown is closed for the holiday week, so we are all virtual. And joining me virtually are two of your favorite people. First off, Mr. Friday, Devon O'Reilly. How are you, sir?
Great to be here, Jer, coming to you from the friendly confines of downtown Detroit, Campus Martius.
Because I think I really want to take Friday off, to be honest with you people. And Norris Howard, who we would normally see on Wednesdays. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Yeah, so forgive any audio issues because we are not in person, but it is so good to talk to both of you. I think with this episode, we're going to talk about a couple of things that we've seen and noticed, and then get into predictions for the future of the next 6 months, as this is kind of like the midway point of 2024, and I think it'd be great to talk about it. So first, let's talk about this new JW Marriott. There's new renderings. We've mentioned a bit about it on the show. But the new renderings that are out, I posted them on Threads. I posted them other places. I'll put them in the show notes. Man, it looks like something right out of the Chicago Riverfront, if you ask me.
It looks fantastic to me. I think it's one of the more sort of aesthetically pleasing developments that we're going to see in the city. I think a lot of it has been sort of rehabs of what already existed, and I think that's fine. But for me, just that whole Water Tower, former Joe Louis site in general, is shaping up to just look magnificent. And I can't wait to see, the shots from Windsor with this thing. And, I think this is great because also this is really going to help have larger, more consistent events at what is it now? Huntington Place, Cobo, whatever it's called now. And I think that's fantastic because, as we know, hotel rooms have been at a premium in the city of Detroit for a while now, especially ones right there near the convention center. So I'm excited to see it. And it says it's going to be done, 2027, they said?
More hotels, the better. We're not going to get enough hotel rooms for what we want to get. And we're trying to get the big events. We've shown that we can do the draft and the biggest of the big. So we've talked about this, Jer, ad nauseum almost, but there's not enough hotel rooms. There continues to not be enough. So when you can add a huge piece like this, that's transformative. And it looks like 600 hotel rooms, which 600 is a really big number. I mean, I guess I don't have I'm going to go ahead and say this. It's going to be the second largest hotel in Detroit, in downtown Detroit, potentially the area. I know that the Marriott at the RenCen has a little over 700 rooms. So with this being 600, I can't imagine there's any hotel even approaching this size. So we're talking about a huge transformative project. It looks like there's going to be tons of different event space. I imagine multiple food and restaurant, food and bev concepts as a part of this hotel. So we'll get added stuff there, added event and convention space that will play off the convention center really nicely. So this will be huge. And as Norris said, I mean, it feels like something that a real city has, like Chicago. And so good for us to have something like this. I'm glad that Joe Louis site has been turned around and we've already got the Water Square apartments open. Now we'll have a 4-star, which is nothing. 4-star is nothing to sneeze at. I know we're going to have a 5-star eventually, but a 4-star hotel and the JW Marriott brand on this site is great news.
Look, I may have an unpopular opinion here, but I am a Red Wings fan, but I am so glad to see the Joe gone. Like, this looks so much better than what Joe Louis Arena was. And I think this also will help fill in some of that neighborhood. So one of the big concerns about Residences Water Square from listeners has been like, well, what else is around it? Well, you're going to have that coffee shop Rosa going in over there. You're going to have like restaurants. You've got 50,000 square feet of different things. that are going to be programmed in there. And although it is a little bit separated from downtown, the connection to Huntington helps. It'll be a little bit easier to get to, like, from the west side, from Corktown. I know that there's plans to kind of remake some of that area. You're going to have the West Riverfront Park that will be done kind of in that area. You're really creating a whole like, there were always people there because of those river towers, but you are really, truly creating a whole neighborhood in that section over there of West Downtown by the riverfront.
I think the only thing that I'm sort of, I sort of get, I don't want to say concerned about, but Jerry, you hit the nail on the head, which is when the water tower development was first announced. I was like, there's nothing over there. Like, what are people going to do? Like, where are the stores? Where are the restaurants? Where do people get groceries? And I think the more you put stuff down there, the more the use case for a business to put something like that down there begins to make sense. Because even though the sort of riverfront towers are over there, for years, there still hasn't been really a lot of retail or reasons to sort of stay in that neighborhood. And so I hope that this brings all that stuff, because as of right now, it still is pretty isolated from the rest of downtown and definitely isolated from any sort of commercial corridors.
Yeah, I mean, I don't say this in a bad way, but you almost have to kind of, okay, you're forcing the community, you're creating a community, you're kind of forcing it to be a neighborhood, and not in a necessarily in a bad way, but you're going to have a hotel with hundreds of people. You're going to have now additional 100 plus residents living down there, in addition to the riverfront towers. You're going to have retail. You're kind of creating this mini neighborhood, and whether it's organic or not, I don't care. The result is it's going to be a more kind of vibrant space. And I think, yeah, the question is, how do you better connect that to the riverfront, and how do you better connect that to the kind of central core of downtown?
Well, the residences at Water Square are a high-end development. That's without a doubt. But also, you've got the riverfront, you've got the Riverwalk right there. But let's not discount the fact that there's the People Mover, and we know that there is a future for the People Mover with the additional cars coming in from Toronto, right? Like, the People Mover is sticking around. There's even talk now that it's going to be expanded. I don't know how valid that talk is, but, like, there was this idea that maybe it would go away. And with that People Mover stop being right there, you're connected to everything in downtown. You're good.
I mean, but I hear People Mover and my eyes glaze over, man.
But you never use it when you live downtown.
No, never. I never used it.
Well, that's because you were in an area where those things are. If you need the plug-in, this will get you to Grand Circus Park. This will get you to.
If I wanted to go all the way to the Renson, I could have easily taken the People Mover and been there in a much simpler way, and I still walked. Because it was just something about the People Mover that made me feel like that was a waste of time. And so I hope that what you're saying is true. It's just, I think culturally, the use case for the People Mover has still not really been proven outside of tourism. And so I think it'll be good for the hotel people. But if you're living down there, I have yet to hear from anyone who is thinking about living in the waterfront towers or in these new towers and going, yeah, man, I'm on the People Mover. I'm so close to everything, because I just haven't seen it.
I mean, to me, this is the true use case of the People Mover. Sure, tourism. But, like, if downtown Detroit had the population density that it should as a major downtown of a major region, our percentage of the population of the region that is downtown Detroit is very small compared to like cities. People Mover will be used all the time. I am bullish on the People Mover, and I will stand by that.
I'm a little bit with Norris, though. It still has yet to provide. It doesn't really get you where you can't go otherwise walking. Like, you could draw the lines between the different stops. And as Norris said, like, if you were in Grand Circus Park and you wanted to get to the waterfront towers, or you wanted to get to the Renson, I guess you could tell me that's the quickest, most efficient way to get there as a People Mover. But just about any other line you want to draw, I'm better on foot. I'm better on scooter.
But my guy, like, I don't know. I'm a little bit older now. I like walking, but I don't like rain. I don't like winter. A lot of people don't like winter. I don't have like, especially if you think about people who are like worried about making sure that their like hair doesn't get soaked, like there are practical reasons. it's really easy from our perspective to be like, oh, we don't need the people mover. But if you're somebody that like, hey, you get wet and you're gonna have to like redo all your stuff, you know, like the people mover can kind of bridge that a bit because, you know, we still have winter.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think maybe it comes back to consistency. I think if the people mover instituted just a little bit more technology so I could see how many cars are on the tracks, where they are, which direction it's going, because they switch the freaking direction around, which is insanity. If I could know all these things ahead of time, I might be a little more apt to use it.
Have you been on the people mover recently? Because they've got signage now that tells you how long.
Okay, it's been probably been a year.
Yeah, they've got signage now. I actually just saw it the last time I was on it.
That's helpful. And do you think it's accurate?
Yeah, totally was. I mean, it's an automated loop with like computers. It doesn't even have a driver. So it's got to know where it is.
I mean, you would hope so, but for 40 years it existed and no one knew where the hell it was at any given time. So
fair. All right, you were hopping around town as you do, Mr. O'Reilly, and you spied something.
Yeah, well, I happen to be on a part of town that gets pretty sleepy during the week, I have to say. Over near, well, let's just call it Foxtown, whatever you want to call it. I think that's what we're supposed to call it.
Illich Village?
Illich Village, sure. The back end of Illich Village, with a lot of parking lots around it. But there's still a lot of cool stuff over there. I mean, you know, you've still got that Columbia Street development. You've got Cliff Bell's. You had what used to be one of my favorite bars. For a while there, I would say that the Town Pump was a top 3 bar for Devon, maybe circa 2010 to 15.
That tracks.
It was a top bar for me. Now, we're even talking about, it wasn't an iteration right across the street, right across from Colony Club. Then it moved, I don't know how many years back, Jer, probably, I'll get this wrong, but I want to say like 6 or 7 years ago. It moved across the street to the Centaur Bar, and Centaur was no more. That was also a little bit of a venerable place for kind of oldish Detroit.
Oh, I have good memories of Centaur, man. I've had some fun over there.
Yeah.
That used to be like a classy bar, right? You take a date or something, or that would be like
that
a
was
night
a
out,
go-to
like
date
Centaur bar.
spot. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the pool tables on the second floor. So then Town Pump took it over, and Town Pump already had built a reputation as being just kind of like a cool, casual bar, live music on weekends, cheap-ish drinks. So that was a cool thing, and you know, it was one of those things where as years had gone by, I didn't go to Town Pump as much anymore, but it was one of those places that I was still glad existed. And so, you know, I was delinquent clearly in going there and being a patron, but I happened to go by the other day, and it's not only is it gone, but I guess for better or worse, it's now something else called like the Chandelier Room or the Chandelier Club or something. So I wasn't sure exactly what it was, but it definitely has already not only closed, so RIP Town Pump, but we also have a new concept, which I can tell you right now, just by looking at the outside, it does not look like it is a similar concept at all to the Town Pump.
Oh, I checked it out on Instagram. It's definitely like a club. Like you go out,
okay,
you know, that kind of vibe. I feel like there are missed opportunities along there, and I feel like it used to be a lot more active than it is now, and especially if they were to actually rehab. Look, I have no misconceptions that we're going to see a lot of District Detroit progress, right? But even with the buildings that exist now, if they just got rehabbed and filled up, you could have a great strip that connects to Columbia Street, that connects to Grand Circus Park, that kind of connects into Cliff Bell's and all of that kind of stuff. I remember when that was a hopping strip, and now it's just a shell of what it was, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's really disappointing. And I remember even way back in, you know, the mid 2000s when like Hot Taco first opened over there, and I was like, the like, I'm drunk, I need to eat now, like spot when you were leaving the Fox or you were leaving the State Theater, now the Fillmore. And I just feel like just the soul of that whole area outside of Cliff Bell's obviously has just been kind of stripped away, especially with the Town Pump being gone now. And I hope whatever is here can be replaced. But I just think until like those stupid like surface lots are replaced, like it just will continue to feel like a no man's land within downtown Detroit, because it's you see what happened over there in the sort of DTE park over there with Lumen and Sexy Steak and all the rest of that over there. And it's like you want to walk over to Comerica Park, but then you just have this vast wasteland of parking lots. And it's just frustrating. I will say, out of all of downtown Detroit, that corner right there is the most frustrating area for me to ever look at, because it just feels like something here will succeed. Like anything else but a parking lot will succeed right here. And it's like, why hasn't this been started yet? And it continues to frustrate me. And so, Devon, I'm with you. I went to Town Pump quite a few times. I had a friend of mine that actually lived in that building above the OG Town Pump. So I would go all the time. And it was a great, like, I'm here to drink. Like that's what I loved about Town Pump. It was like, no, not here to, I'm barely here to socialize. I'm not here for a birthday party or event. I'm here to drink and maybe get something, but mostly I'm here to drink. And that's what I loved about it.
A listener showed some video. They are rocking and rolling on the U of M Center of Innovation nearby there. And I wonder if that's going to be part of that catalyst. There's people coming in and out of the Loyal Order of Moose building. So there's things happening over there. I wonder if that's going to be part of that catalyst that starts to move those things along, because really it's going to be Ross and them who really start to like move some of these projects, you know?
It has to, because if you know, maybe one of those lots survives and ends up functioning as the parking lot for that building, which is fine.
Or what if they build garages? Like, why don't we take
I
those
don't
lots?
understand why all of those spots are not just apartment buildings with covered parking.
Yeah, we know why.
Because it's cheap and it doesn't cost money and it throws off a ton of cash for the family. And their fear is that suburbanites who come down want just strips of parking lots. Like that's who they're serving. Like they don't serve residents, right? That they're not residents first.
Well, also, we've said this before. I've said this before, at least. I mean, Olympia Development is not a developer, right? The only reason they're getting the U of M Innovation Center is because they partnered with Sterling Group, which is a real, about their developer. So, like, let's be honest. The reason there's not building apartments is because who's going to build them? Olympia's not a developer. They need to partner with other people, and they have seemingly no interest in that. So it's not going to get done on their own.
Well, I also think that it's difficult to make the numbers work. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight, and something that will, I think, lead us into our next conversation about the next, 6 months and what we hope for, is that I think we're dealing with the situation of access to capital and horizons. You look at what Dan Gilbert's doing, it's very clear that he is working on 30-year timelines. He's not looking to make money right away. You look at that book tower, you look at these different things, he's building legacy. And I think a lot of other developers are in like 5 to 6 year timelines. And those timelines, just unless you've got the real capital at hand, which I do not believe they do, those don't make sense. You're not going to turn that ROI in 5 years right now.
You're being too kind, Jer. It's not even about 5 or 6 years. Dan may be dealing in 30-year timelines, but he's dealing in action now. His actions are happening in 1, 2, 3 years. If you want to kind of let them off the hook and say that other people are acting in 5 to 6 year time spans, 3 to 4 year time spans, they're not taking any action. So there's no action behind any of that plan.
I'm with Devon on this one, is that just talking about the immediate future of the entire city, not just, the downtown area that we're speaking about now. If that's the timeline you're functioning on, then it behooves you to build fast and get people in the stuff now. Like that's what is really important. Like the hotel over there by the Bondsdale on Woodward, like it felt like that lot was undeveloped for years and years and years, and finally somebody said, "Okay, we got it," and the thing has gone up in less than a year. Like that's the kind of action that makes me feel like, oh, you're on a short timeline. You want to make money now. And I feel like what's happened is that we have, a situation where some developers have so many other sources or have so much legacy or have so much cachet within the city that they don't have to function off those types of timelines. Whether as developers who may be coming in from elsewhere, or Dan Gilbert, who just is all about legacy, as you guys said, they tend to be focused like, Detroit's hot. We want to get in. We want to be a part of this market, and we want to stamp our claim on it right now. I think about, the hotel and the apartment building that was just built on Michigan in Courtown. Like those got announced and those went up and people are in them. So like, that concept that other people are working off short timelines, to me, at least like locally or regionally, I don't feel like that's necessarily true because we're not seeing it come to fruition.
I think that it's about what they think that they can get, and I don't think that they see, like, they don't have the resources to be able to do this. So you can be wealthy, but that doesn't mean you have the resources to do this kind of project. And I'm starting to think like the Illich family just doesn't have the resources. Like, they just don't have the coin to pull this off. Because if you have the money, this is the thing that I've noticed about down and any development, anywhere. If you've got the money, time becomes money once you hit go, right? Once you start, time becomes money. And if you've got the money, you go. If you don't have the money, like when people are like, oh, well, this happened and something stalls for 2 years, in my head, they didn't raise the funds. That thing's dead. Like, we should just not give developers these long timelines of if, maybe, when, because within 6 months to a year if you've got the money. That isn't how these fundraisings don't take 5 years. So either like you got the money, you don't, and you move on.
I mean, I agree. I 1,000% agree. And, you guys know a lot more about definitely, sort of large scale and commercial development than I do. But it's just when I see it as a Detroiter and as somebody who has seen this, bared witness to the city's growth in recent years, I just continue to get frustrated when I see what should be a lot of our sort of local business community further investing and creating new things. And I just think to your point of what you wanted to talk about, Jer, in the next 6 months to a year, I actually see a lot more people from outside of Detroit coming in and making a lot of progress because they're going to have the capital. They're going to have the backing. They're going to have the ability to come in and, essentially do what they want to do. Because, as I just read a report in, I believe it was a Zillow report that said, Metro Detroit is one of the most overinflated housing markets right now. And it's because people who have cash, whether they have left and come back or are totally new, they're coming with cash. And they're coming with the ability to be able to say, I want this right now today. And a lot of Metro Detroit simply don't got it. And that's frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I would piggyback off what Norris is saying. It's like, I think if you're a resident, if you're someone who listens to the podcast, I think I know I can get the profile of some of our listeners. You're going to be potentially shocked, but hopefully not shocked because we're telling you about some of the money and investment that's going to come in over the next 6 months. And I think part of that is fueled for the draft. We've had. I mean, Detroit is kind of in another kind of. If you're looking at it as like a graph, we're definitely in like a. We're hockey sticking up right now, where we're kind of getting a bump up again, and so we're seeing a lot of developments come online. You might see some shocking kind of sticker prices. People with money are continuing to move in and invest, and the question, of course, is where does that leave people who are already here, who are still trying to do things in kind of the organic way? I don't know, and I think that the city has to do a better job of making it a little bit easier. Maybe a little bit of a hometown discount, or at least making it less red tape to operate. I think of some of my small business owner friends and like the smaller developer friends, the ones who need additional partners on projects. And a lot of times they get tied up in bureaucracy and red tape and permitting and all the extra costs it takes just to get a project shovel ready. I hope that the administration and the powers that be can see that issue and make it a little bit easier.
I'm going to co-sign that in a couple ways. One, I feel like monetarily and with investment, you think that what happened so far is fast, get ready for your head to spin. Because this is like when you just start to get on the freeway and you pull up to speed and then you need to hit the freeway hard. That's what's about to happen. I think number two, the city needs to internalize that the best way they can help small developers is eliminate red tape, because red tape is not a stoppage for large developers. Large developers have legal teams and whatever. They just roll right through it. What that red tape and all of those problems and fees and whatever do, they screw up little developers. They screw up people who are trying to make things happen. And there have been multiple stories in the media about this. I can talk about them another episode, have some people on. But if the city wants to help smaller developers, they need to get efficient. And it's not about the big guys. It's the little guys who don't have the cash to wait out or don't have the cash for another lawyer or whatever. I can think back to I can think back to the tens of thousands of dollars in extra timeline that the owner of that building that owns Folk and all that other stuff. It's a really cool building at Trumbull and Bagley and Corktown went through to build a truly urban development and all the trouble they went through. The city is in the way of small developers by not functioning right, and that is the incentive the city should do. That is a huge thing to streamline that process. Sure, will it help some of the bigger guys? Sure, but will really help people who are now instead investing in the suburbs because they don't have that red tape. And when you're smaller and you still have some millions, you still have some things you're doing, right? But you're not like the super size. If you want to help smaller developers of color, all that other stuff, get rid of this red tape. It doesn't exist other places.
No, it doesn't. And that's why I'm very interested to see, especially as we start to talk about potentially, new administrations coming in the near future, as to, what is the sort of, I would say, modus operandi for development in the city. Like, if it's just status quo and we are where we are, then we're going to continue to see development dominated by Dan Gilbert and a few other powers that be that are coming from outside the city. But I think the way we're going to sort of spread development and progress into the neighborhoods, into other facets of the city, is going to be the small and the medium-sized developer. And we do have to eliminate some of the permitting and really a lot of the fees that come along with the permitting, as well as things like the land value tax. That's what I hope for. But it's going to require a lot of people to make a lot of noise about it. And, I'm not privy to a lot of those conversations, but I think that's the way we got to move forward in the next 6 to 12 months is we got to start looking at, okay, downtown is rocking and rolling. People want to come here. People want to invest in downtown, even though it is not, fully saturated. There's still plenty of space left downtown, plenty of vacant floors and buildings downtown. But when we're talking about the rest of the city, like, how do we expand that investment into the neighborhoods? And we're not going to be able to do it until we get rid of red tape and, to be perfectly honest, completely revamp our zoning laws. Like, from the ground up, we have to completely revamp zoning. If we don't fix that, like, there is no way to sort of, inject density into these neighborhoods unless we rethink our zoning laws.
Devon, I'll leave you with the last word.
Yeah, and I'll kind of leave it appropriately and say everything you guys said has been spot on. We all agree, the three of us all agree on this, and it's a bit timely as we're looking ahead 6 months. We have a mayoral election coming up next year, and I would surmise that sometime in the next 6 months, if there is some people who are serious about wanting to be the next mayor of Detroit, if it's not Mike Duggan, they're going to have to kind of raise their hand. They're going to kind of have to let us know. And so I know there's been tons and tons of speculation, most of it rampant, about who might those people be. But I think that in the next 6 months, we should and we probably will see a couple more hands raised for mayor. And when thinking about the conversation we just had, how do they feel about what we just talked about? I'll end my speculation here and say I know at least one of those people who may or may not raise their hand is a local developer themselves and probably feels some of the pain of this. So we'll see.
Devon O'Reilly, so good to talk to you.
Great to talk to you, Jer. I hope everybody listening has a fantastic holiday week and weekend.
Norris Howard, as always, keeping it real.
Oh, as always, man. And when I love when we had Double West Side on the show, so it's always the best.
I'm overwhelmed.
That's right. You're overwhelmed. This is a West Side heavy show. That's okay.
So, Eastsiders, email me, dailydetroit@gmail.com. I want to hear some love for the East Side. All right, a couple of housekeeping things before we go. Number one, I think I am going to go ahead and skip on Friday because I do need a little bit of a break. We'll be back in the studio next week. We've got our happy hour, July 11th at the Royce. Aren't we excited about this, guys?
Yeah, man, we will be there, and we will be there in full force. Come and get you some delicious wines and chat with the Daily Detroit crew. Do you disagree with us? Do you want to yell at us in person? Guess what? This is your chance.
Don't invite too much, Norris, especially if there's alcohol involved. But I will be there. Yes, I will be there.
And we have our survey dailydetroit.com/survey, our listener and reader survey. We try to do this every 6 months to a year to get an idea of what you all are looking for, how we can serve you better, get good feedback, because, we are nothing without you, so we really appreciate that. With that, I am Jer Staes. Thank you so much for listening. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk Monday.